Hey, welcome to the Lock and Load show on Gun Channels. And this is the Hawaii Volcano Squad. I am the Hawaii Volcano Squad, and I forgot to turn off the external YouTube. Let me put that on pause. All right. So now that I've muted the external, and I won't hear everything I say in stereo 2 or 3 times, I'd like to introduce you all to a personal friend of mine. This is the Tavor IWI Tavor rifle, bullpup rifle, chambered in 5.56 by 45 millimeter, and it's got a rear flip to side mount for 1 to 3 times magnifier, 3 times magnifier, and Israeli Reflex red dot optic, and green laser target designator, which is aligned with the optic. And wanted to talk about comparing this rifle to the AK, which is the most popular assault rifle on the planet. Most popular rifle, prolific rifle on the planet, anyway. And because we had watched a show, and then we talked about it a little bit last week, I think Hurricane 360 on the Weather Channel, where there was a scene where a guy and his wife were taking out supplies to their minivan, I think it was, and there was 5 bad guys looking in the car, checking for gas, and demanding his keys when he came out of his townhouse. And he dropped his the ice chest full of ice and drinks on the ground and unslung his rifle, which was an AK, and then they saw it and ran away. That the AK is definitely, people have heard of it. And it's nice that there wasn't any violence, because if the portrayal of the scene was accurate, it's supposed to be based on a true story, that they just saw the AK and ran. And we mentioned that people might see, if I had a Tavor and they pulled out the Tavor, they might not know what the fuck this is. And I think the advantage that I really like of the Tavor, comparing it to the AK, is the rail on top makes it really easy to mount an optic that'll work for you. And the reflex optic, it's a lot faster to pick up targets, to go from target one. If there were 5 bad guys, that if I knew I was going into a situation where it was just guns up, and there was bad guys, and there was multiple bad guys, I could go from one target to the next a lot faster with a reflex optic than I could with iron sights. Now the AK does have a side mount, and I've seen optics on an AK. I've never seen anybody mount this particular optic on an AK, but it just seems, I've never used the side mount on an AK. It just, maybe because I'm a purist or something, and I like the rifle the way it is, the AKs. But if I have multiple bad guys that I'm dealing with, I don't care. I mean, and they've got weapons, then I'd rather just be able to engage them all rapidly and the threat than hope they run away. So I know we never got, also the week before we started to do a chat on 5.56 versus 7.62. I was going to ask Squib a question, because when you were in the military, and you were, I don't know about the training on the range, but when you were deployed, did you get issued the green tips or the regular 55 grain or 62 grain?
So when I was doing training at Camp Pendleton for boot camp and for MCT, and when I went to the rifle range a few years later at Camp Lejeune, we were using 55 grain. So that would be M193. When I was at Camp de Cangiers up in the French Alps, training with Armataire, which is the French Army, we got our hands on some green tips. We got them from the infantry guys. I was air wing, and I don't know if they had well, I know they had newer stuff than us. They get some of the stuff first in the rotation. So we jumped in a deuce and a half, and we went out to this firing range where the French were going to let us shoot their guns. But the deal was we had to use our ammo. So we picked up some 5.56 from the grunts, and that's, I think, maybe the only time I used green tips the whole time I was in.
So, and the terminal ballistics is different. And when you were deployed, it was doing air wing ordnance, right? So you
right.
just had a Beretta. You didn't have AR.
No, I had an M16 and an M60.
Okay.
The M16, I took it out of the armory once a month and cleaned it, and that was all I did with it. The M60 I had when I was either doing training or deployed or out. I guess you can say mission or whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, really, I handled more 50 calibers than anything else on that deployment. But as far as the green tip ammo, the thing about the green tip ammo, everybody calls it armor piercing. It's not armor piercing. If I had to even give it some sort of designation like that, I would say that it's a semi armor piercing round.
It's light armor piercing. LAP is what they officially call it. But
I mean, okay. I would say that it could penetrate better than a 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail because of the steel core, but not armor piercing in the sense that the average person would think of it. Like it's not going to go through a Bradley.
or an engine or an engine block
or something. Well,
but the thing is, this stuff will tumble, and I don't think the green tips tumble as far as terminal ballistics go.
That's just it though. Depending on how far and what kind of target it hits, and for the 55 grain, the M193, like I've seen it hit the target at 500 meters and hit the berm behind the target, roll down the hill, and spin around like a top. It's like other times it just goes right into the berm and just sticks into the dirt. I've seen an M16 shoot through a telephone pole. It'll smash a cinder block, even though
You're talking about the M193.
Yeah, the 55 grain full metal jacket. It'll, I'm not necessarily going to say it's going to be as devastating as a 30-06 on a cinder block, but it'll penetrate a lot of stuff in general. Dad saw one go through two guys in Vietnam. I don't know if it was him pulling the trigger or somebody he was with, but he said he watched somebody shoot an M16 go through an 5.56 round.
When you said that, I instantly thought of the scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade where he shoots through five guys with a pistol.
And as with the pistol, I don't think it'll happen with it. With the 5.56 at close range, it's got a lot of velocity. I mean, I was really surprised. I'm not a big 22 guy in general, but the 5.56 223, I like it because it works as advertised. Whereas I would typically go for a 30 cal, it works as advertised. That being said, though, it's still not a bad idea to have something of 30 cal. If everybody's carrying 5.56, it's not bad to have somebody carrying 1.762 weapon in your fire team or platoon or whatever you've got, squad, or depending on what you're doing there.
Yeah, that was always something that bugged me about when I was watching Tour of Duty, is that how come the lieutenant leading the squad was always carrying. A lot of the times he was carrying an AK, and I was like,
"Oh, that was later on. That was later on when they were a
SOG unit,
a SOG team." Yeah, yeah. And if you notice, Purcell had a, what do you have, a Sterling, right?
I don't remember.
Think he had. Yeah, I think Purcell had a Sterling, and I think Zeke had a XM177E3 or E2, and one of them carried a shotgun. Was it?
That was Anderson. That was Zeke.
No. He had a shotgun when he went into the tunnel, but he had the commando style M16, the XM177 later on. Was Joshua Nunez Jr.'s character. I can't remember his name. I thought he had a shotgun later when they were in a SOG team. And
shotguns work great. I mean, I don't have a problem. I have one. I don't have as much time on it, but it's. I wouldn't want to get hit with a shotgun. It's just a devastating weapon. I mean, buckshot.
Well, I mean, any weapon, used properly is going to have some devastating effect. The part of it is with characteristics of the weapon and or ammunition work best in that missions application. And then if there's not some specific mission application, it's what do you have or what are you good with, right?
Well, I seem to hit, it's like with my AK, I hit everything, but it's just, if I had to engage 5 targets real fast, I couldn't line them up in my sights as fast as I could with the Reflex. And I've seen people with like different optics on an AK, but for me, it's just that whole side mount thing is just weird. I like the rail right on top of this thing, right here, and you just mount it on top and zero it in. And I've got this. You do have to replace the batteries every once in a while. I've got this little container with a O-ring that in my bug out bag. I took it out of the bug out bag for this show, and it basically holds 6 CR123 batteries. Screw it for you. So it's kind of waterproof, but because of the O-ring. But it's got. I've used 2 of them. I just put in one. Replace the old battery. But so I got to get a couple more to get this thing topped off. You never know when the apocalypse is going to hit, but hopefully no time soon. And I'll say that the thing about the AK is like you always feel like it's going to go bang. It doesn't require a lot of maintenance. It's almost impossible to fuck up. It's pretty easy to use and it's accurate. It's just I think it's the Reflex is faster to line up a target and move on to the next one and move on to the next one and move on to the next one. And the only problem I really had with reliability, the Tavor's a little picky on magazines. It seems to like the Gen 3 PMags pretty well. Haven't had any problems with that one. The one that it came with, it had a feeding issue, and I don't use them anymore. IWI doesn't even ship the original magazines that the original Tavor came with. This is the original, not the X93. And also the only other issue is like the very first time I took it out, I think after a while it jammed because I hadn't lubricated it enough or properly. The bull carrier group, I didn't take it apart completely and lubricate it, which is something you should probably do every time you get a brand new rifle. But I was so eager to go out shooting, I didn't bother. As soon as I got this, I hit the range like almost, I don't know, was it the same day or the next day? But and so I haven't had any problems since I keep it lubricated and clean, which is probably something you should do. But you don't need to bother with that with an AK. It'll shoot dirty, it'll shoot nasty, and you can throw it in the mud and pick it up and it'll still shoot. So this one you got to keep clean, and it's kind of picky on magazines. But once you get past that, it works. And I like the whole bullpup thing for, I don't know if it's because I live in a kind of urban setting, but I kind of painted it for the jungle. The kind of like a bunch of Krylon paint and a little kind of strange tiger stripes and some uh, paracord with mossy oaks swatches of little material. And it's, I mean, I like the AK. It's great. I have one, and I like shooting with iron sights too. But honestly, this is just faster and picking in letting me pick up my targets. So if I was walking around with an AK, hopefully everybody that was thinking bad thoughts would just run away. And that would be pretty smart. But if there was like tons of bad guys and I had to take them on, I'd rather have this one. But a lot of people are big AK fans, and that's okay. And so am I. I mean, my AK rocks. It's just when you bet your life on something, you kind of, I guess people are picky. Some people are used to ARs, and because that's what they served with in the military, and this is America, and so everybody got an AR, right? So people are used to ARs, and the manual farm's a little different. You got the charging handle here over on the left side, and but other than that, I mean, once you get used to it, and kind of holding it. It's a lot different. It feels a lot different once you get used to it. This is the rifle I'd pick if I had to choose. But yeah, I mean, it was just that one scene where the bad guys saw the AK and ran in the Hurricane 360 that I think got me started to talking about it. And I haven't done a Tavor or AK, or I think we've been doing a lot of prepping chats and not too much about guns lately. So,
but if you think about it though, that was a documentary about Hurricane Katrina, and that event actually happened. That guy used that firearm, and without even having to fire a shot, and it flies in the face of all the arguments for gun control. Here's a guy who's not like this pro-2A activist, whether he's just a guy with a gun, and he was in a tight situation. And if it'd come down to it, if they decided they were going to see if he really had the balls to pull the trigger, he's going to have to face the moment of truth. And having the tools and everything else to do the job is one thing. But actually being able to do it, if you can use it as a deterrent, that's great. But if that fails, you've got to have what it takes inside to do something that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. But still, that documentary, I can't even talk right. I seem to do that on chats. That documentary, it disproves all the arguments for gun control. That scene right there disproves every single argument for gun control in America. So...
yeah, but what did you think about him like yelling and running and charging at those guys? Because I mean, I would just draw down on him. I wouldn't yell and scream and run at him.
I might. It sometimes can have a psychological effect. It more or less says this guy's crazy, and
he's got an AK.
Well, the thing is, though, part of it. Okay, if you want to get yourself into the mental state where you can take somebody's life, sometimes you kind of have to cross over some lines there. And if acting crazy is going to make these guys think that he is crazy, and it gets them to run away, and he doesn't have to kill them, mission accomplished. But I mean, that's kind of part of. I mean, you know, somebody can say, "Oh, you're going to lose your some of your humanity doing this sort of thing." You could, if you don't deal with it properly, you could. But in general, you just have to kind of cross over into a different thing. So he was demonstrating that, even though maybe in his mind He wasn't, or maybe in his mind he was. He was trying to steel himself to be able to do this because he might, what if charging him didn't work, and yelling was kind of, I mean, I don't want to call it like cheerleading or something like that, but sometimes when you
gets your adrenaline going.
Right, it helps push you, motivate you. So it had a dual effect, in my opinion.
Right. The problem is you wind up a lot closer. You have a ranged weapon, and you wind up in like close quarter. You're moving yourself into close quarter combat range. If I have a rifle, I'll keep the guys with it because it looked to me like at most they had pistols or knives or something. And
no, they were unarmed. He was just outnumbered.
I thought he was unarmed. I thought the guy in front was reaching for a weapon. It looked to me, but.
Not the way I remember it. He was outnumbered. He was more or less outnumbered.
Well, that will do it. That will do it. You can get killed if you're outnumbered.
But and that's just it. But that AK became a force multiplier. And I don't like it when some of these guys with their goatee, shaved head, and tight T-shirt use terms like force multiplier in the wrong way, and then you got people who know nothing about fighting or combat or guns or tactics, any of that stuff. They don't seem to understand, and then you'll hear people parrot terms like that. That example in that documentary, that's use of a force multiplier. He had a 30-round mag, and if it was fully loaded and he had some accuracy, he could take down 30 people with that if they didn't rush him and overpower him.
40-round mags or go home. Go 40 or go home. I mean.
I've only got one 40-round AK mag, but I got it by mistake.
Well, that's a bank error in your favor.
Yeah, I ordered 3 30s and he shipped me 2 30s and a 40. So.
Wow, I got to order from that company. Maybe they'll make a mistake and send me an extra mag. Yeah, I have some Gen 3 40-round P mags, and I like them. And they work. I don't. I mean, as far as force multipliers, if you're one person, I mean, I guess the more guns you have, the better. But you only have. I mean, I can't like dual wield an AK. I can't dual wield 2 rifles. I mean, unless it's in a comedy video or something. But so I probably
with it being semi-automatic, you don't have to cock it every time. With the fact that it's got, if he
you just have to get a sight picture. You just have to get a sight picture.
Right, and some people say, well, what do you need a semi-auto rifle for? What do you need a 30-round magazine for? There's a perfect example of what you need both of those features for. That's not to say he couldn't have fended him off with a 5-shot single-action revolver. He could have, but if they're that crazy or desperate or on drugs, he might have shot one and the other 4 overpowered him before he could cock the. So there's a time and a place. So when these anti-gun people want to say, there's never a time where you could ever use this thing, bullshit. That documentary is a perfect example.
Yeah, when they ask you, what do you need such and such a gun for? Well, we don't have a bill of needs. We have a bill of rights.
Right, and I don't think you need to prove. But if you want an example, here's a perfect example of a citizen lawfully using this evil weapon for a good purpose.
It's not. Weapons are inanimate objects. It's human beings that are either good or evil.
Yes, but that's the way the people who don't understand guns at all, that's the way they view it. And now I'm not saying they're right. They're absolutely wrong. But if you want to throw their pathetic arguments back at them, be like, well, I didn't see anything evil going on there. If anything, it saved somebody's life. Actually, it saved 2 lives, right? So.
Yeah, guns have their uses besides just fun. Yeah, the cops were somewhere else.
Where were the National Guard? They were underwater.
We're underwater. Well, I think everybody was underwater in Hurricane Katrina, that part of town. Yeah, when shit goes wrong, you can't count on anybody but yourself. I mean, we were brought into this world as individuals, and you're individually responsible for making your way through the continuum, and you're responsible for all your actions, and whether you're prepared or not, and have the training and know how to use firearms. Anyway, I want to preach to the choir. I'm sure everybody that watches this show loves that shit. So, all right, let's see. The whole, what else can we cover about the thing? As far as the 7.62 by 39 round, I've noticed a lot of bullet drop when I shoot it, but I just have to account for it when I'm shooting at distance, and then I don't have a problem. Like, you just have to be aware of it. So it does kind of get to be a little like archery a bit, but I guess it's just a heavy round, and we have this thing called gravity. Though I believe Sir Isaac Newton's theory of gravity was replaced with the theory of relativity. And I don't know, maybe that one's been replaced by something else now. I'm not a physics guy. But I know that you have to account for bullet drop quite a bit. And since I really haven't done very much long-range shooting at all with my Tavor, because I have it set up for close quarters. If I need a long-range shooting, I'll pull out my bolt-action CZ, which is a 7.62 weapon. I know that I have to account for bullet drop, and I've got a blue bolt optic on it. But for CQB, this is the rifle I'd pick if I had to. I hope I never have to, and I only get to use it at the range for fun. But who knows? Who knows how the world changes. Russia and China can get mad at us, and then God knows what would happen after that. So anyway, it does require
Russia and China can get mad at us, and then there'd be a lot of Russian and Chinese bringbacks from the battlefield. That's what would happen. Hope I can get one at the gun show.
Well, one thing I'll say about the going into reflex optics is if there's an EMP, you'll have problems with anything because there's computer chips in it, and this has technology. Iron sights always work. Don't need EMP. Don't bother. I mean, the AK is basically, it'll go through anything. I mean, and it'll work, and it'll do what it does. But if I don't get hit by an EMP and then my optic is working on here and I've got batteries, CR123 bats, and then I'll pick this optic just because I can go from one target to the next one. I mean, really fast. So, let's see. I'm not sure what else. Did you ever? So Squib, did you ever fire any 7.62 by 39 weapons?
Yeah.
In the military, or just?
No, not in the military.
What I like, one thing I like about the AK, it feels like you're firing a cannon. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh no. I mean, we're not in front of each other, so that sort of thing happens. One thing that surprised me was I thought that they would do some sort of familiarization with enemy weapons when I was in, because we did get training on how to identify enemy vehicles, especially from the air, from the helicopters. You really didn't want a friendly fire situation. They're Russian armor personnel carriers that look like American ones, Russian tanks. I mean, if you didn't grow up around this stuff, you didn't know what it looked like. Especially if there are no tanks or anything on that side of base. So, I studied military history and all that stuff as a kid. when we were doing identification classes, I was picking them out left and right. And they're like, "How do you know this stuff already?" I'm like, "It's not classified. All you have to do is just, join the military book club or something." But other than familiarizing.
So you remember the military book club when you were a kid?
Yeah, back in the 80s.
When people still read books. Okay.
Yeah, what did you get? 5 books for a penny, and then after that you had to buy so many books a year or something. With the exception of trying to get us familiar with identifying their vehicles, so there weren't any friendly fire incidents, they never gave us weapons familiarization with Warsaw Pact weapons, and I thought that was really unusual. But I'm sure that there were other people that did other missions that probably did get to shoot an AK or an SKS or a Makarov or a Dragunov or something, because that sort of thing got captured and brought back. So, I know they had that stuff, but it wasn't.
Well, I think that people that they would train for would be people that might be like doing long range reconnaissance or something, like where they might be in a situation where they had to pick it up and know how to use it.
Yeah, the Force Recon guys probably all got to shoot stuff like that. You'd be surprised how many things spill over. Somebody can say that they were just a cook or a clerk, but if you are in the right place at the right time or know the right people, you can get to do all kinds of things that aren't necessarily part of your job, either cross-train in it or just, get a chance to jump in the back of a truck with somebody and end up somewhere doing something, and it's maybe not directly related to your job, but hey, why not, right?
I wouldn't know. I wasn't in the military.
No. Well, I got to shoot a French rifle, but I did not get to shoot a Russian rifle.
So. What was that one that the French rifle, the French machine gun that always never worked? The show or something?
Oh, the show. Yeah, the show. Yeah.
It always jammed for some reason. I forget what it was.
Yeah, did not get to handle a show. I'm trying to think if I've ever even seen one in a museum. The show, the thing is, it was designed for the 8mm Lebel, and we had them converted for 30-06, and something about it worked okay with the Lebel, but it didn't work good with the 30-06. I've also heard stories about mud got into the magazine because there was an opening in the side of the magazine. I've heard that some of the rumors about the gun are totally unfounded and it's perfectly fine and whatever. It's like, okay, well, the BAR made it all the way to Vietnam. The show, I don't even think they used it after World War I, so whatever.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to comment on Steve's comment that I had a lot of paracord on my rifle, and the whole concept of my camo with the swatches and the paracord and everything is so that the outline doesn't look like a rifle. Okay, it doesn't look like a rifle, so that's why there's swatches and different colors and different directions. So you don't want it to look like a rifle. And when I'm holding it up against my Tiger Stripe BDU, you almost can't see it. And if I'm standing in like the middle of the jungle, you definitely won't see it. So it's just a camo thing. You want to break up the outline of the rifle. You don't want any straight lines. You want different shadings of colors. I forgot the word that they use for counter color, counter something. The whole theory of camouflage, but that's probably something they taught you in basic, right?
Well, they said to break up the pattern. You've got a solid color. You want to break it up. I mean, do the same thing for hunting. Because, for example, the deer are supposed to be colorblind. They can't see the blaze orange because they want people, you have to wear orange when you go shooting, right? Well, if you break up that orange with some black camouflage stripes or splotches or whatnot, now it breaks it up where it isn't a solid color and the deer isn't supposedly not going to spot you as well, because even though it can't see color, it sees that there's all these different shades and colors, or what it knows are colors, even though it sees everything in black and white. And then there's this one solid color sticking out, and it can tell that that's unusual. But if you've got lines in it, it breaks it up, and the deer just looks at it like background stuff. And the same thing with camouflage on a human being, as far as trying to fool the enemy. I mean, I can tell you those tiger stripes, those are one of the hardest things I've had. I've had people stand 10 feet in front of me wearing tiger stripes, and I couldn't see them. So.
Yeah, in foliage especially. Of course, with animals,
well,
it helps to be downwind, because they can smell you even if they can't see you.
Well, the thing is, though, I mean, with some of that stuff, for example, modern sniping, they went to hunters to get what they needed for sniping. The ghillie suit, that's from hunting. And some of the procedures, or not procedures, but well, I guess you call them procedure, whatever, have to do with like stalking an animal. Also, look at the rifles that they've chosen for sniper rifles. Yeah, some of them are semi-auto based off of an infantry rifle, but a lot of them are bolt-action hunting rifles converted for sniping. So, in the same sense, the camouflage can be a lot. I mean, I don't know if camouflage came about for the military first or for hunting first, but the same principles with your camouflage you wear for hunting is the same thing. You're trying to break up the pattern so that you don't stick out. You don't stick out. Something is different. You're looking and everything's tan, but something's different. But if you just blend in, then you look like another piece of the desert. You look like another piece of foliage. You look like another piece of whatever it is you're trying to mimic.
Yeah, you don't want to stand out wherever you are. It's different if you're in an urban environment, and then if you're in the boonies, in the jungle, or in whatever your local wild areas are like. So you have to be able to adapt to whatever your environment is. One of my bug out plans has always been to bug out up into the jungle, up on the volcano, at least before it blew up. and so that last eruption kind of come up with a plan B, for a bug out plan, because plan A seems to be temporarily, at least, off of the realm of realistic possibilities. But I think the volcano's starting to simmer down now. There hasn't been any there hasn't been any fog. There hasn't been any earthquakes. The lava stopped flowing. Most of the roads are now reopened, and I think the National Guard has been pulled off of all the streets. And they just tell you pretty much to be careful around the Fissure 3 and some of the areas where the lava is still kind of, the rocks are still hot and there's still steam coming up from underground. But a lot of the roads, you just are no longer there. There used to be roads and homes, and now there's just a lava field. So, but up on the volcano, it's just the park is going to be closed for quite some time. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The Caldera Trail, the road, there used to be a road around the Caldera, a crater rim trail, that you could drive your car on, and that's impossible now. There's like cracks and crevasses right through the middle of it, and so it's going to be years before they have to do a study and figure out how to fix it and see if they even can save the Jaeger Volcanology Museum and Observatory, and so it'll be nice when they want to slowly reopen the park in phases, but it's going to be a while before it gets fully reopened. As far as bugging out to the jungle, I mean, that's always still a possibility. But hey, let's hope. I hope the grid always stays up and I never have to bug out, and the Safeway always has food stocked and there's always gas at the gas station, but I don't have control over some of these things. Or any of these things. So it helps to be prepared and know what you're, firearms is part of that. So this is a personal friend of mine, and I feel safer when it's around. And so I pick it over if I have both. So, I mean, it's not like I don't like the AK. I love the AK. It's just if I had to bet my life, which is what it comes down to, is if you have to bet your life, which one are you going to pick? And being one person, I would, if I had to go up against multiple bad guys, I need to be able to engage multiple targets rapidly, and this optic helps me do it better. The MSE AQC Mikey Hartman optic, the original is no longer available. I think Optics Planet sells the second version incarnation of it. I think somebody on Gun Channels has one that they got from there. I haven't seen the new one yet. I mean, other than on YouTube or something. But the first one works fine for me. And as long as I've got batteries for it, don't be a bad guy around me in the apocalypse. So I'll pick now. I can understand why people like the AK and would prefer it too, because it's just nothing ever goes. It's hard. It's almost never malfunctions. I mean, and it'll work no matter what. Doesn't need batteries. It's just not as fast. A Reflex is faster than iron sights is all. And like there's people who pick up and use the side mount on the AK for optics. I just never got into that because it felt like not just that I'm a purist, but it just having to get a side mount on one side of the rifle. It just made the whole thing more bulky than it should be. And I don't know. I guess I could say I don't have any experience with it. And so I kind of tend to shy away from that particular attempting to do that. Though, I mean, I've seen like the AK, what's the AK operator guy? I think they have one of its hats around here somewhere. And he seems to do great. And yeah, I think I've seen him with various optics on some of the AKs that he uses. Okay, I'll just give a check out there. Do you have anything you want to talk about on the current events as far as the whole Supreme Court thing? I mean, personally, I got tired of hearing about it, and something happened to some girl in high school 40 years ago or something, and she can't even remember who it really was. So what? You have any comments on any of this stuff?
Yeah. Let's see. I'll see your IPA and raise you a Pilsner. Other than that comment, no, I think they're really kind of digging deep on that. I mean, they're going way back and
way back.
Okay, so there's something to be said about okay, as far as I know, the people have stood up from saying it's total BS. Even the FBI said they're not going to investigate it. Here's the thing. There's such a thing as statute of limitations, and the reason that's there is because some things it's just really not fair to judge somebody. As we get older, we change. We make smart remarks as adolescents and young adults that we might not make as more mature adults. We make maybe not.
Well, we do dumb things also, right, as teenagers.
And this is what I've noticed. Somebody who keeps their nose clean the first, 20, 30 years of their adult life, right? Or at least they never get caught, but they claim to keep their nose clean, tend to make some really juvenile mistakes when they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that somebody else made when they were in their 20s or 30s. I'd rather make it in my 20s or 30s and bounce back than look really stupid making that sort of error. Well,
I don't think I kind of highly doubt that he did what he's being accused of by this woman, because her memories are basically were brought out by some therapist like 6 years ago, and that's her evidence is some notes from a therapist notes from 6 years ago, and so somebody at a party groped her, but I mean, can she testify that it was him, really? I mean, because she didn't even remember it all that time.
Some of that stuff you really should have concrete evidence before you go smearing somebody, and you could say,
well, they wanted to smear this guy for political reasons.
Right. But the whole thing is, so no matter what, whether it was shoplifting when he was 16 or whatever, the thing is, there's certain things over time you need to look at somebody's character. A guy who was a drunk in his 20s or 30s could be the most outstanding, outgoing, law-abiding, hard-working citizen in his 40s, 50s, and 60s. People change. People, and that's why I think the statute of limitations is a good thing to have. I think there needs to be maybe more things that have shorter statute of limitations or something. Because
I think there's some things that have to have longer statute of limitations, but anyway.
Okay, here's the thing. If somebody commits a crime against you and you don't report them, I don't think you should be able to go back 10 years later, 20 years later, 50 years later. And
what about if I did report them and the authorities just didn't do anything?
Then that's something where you have to escalate it. That's
escalated how? I mean, I did. I mean, I told you, like, I reported the people that run where I live to the FBI for interstate mail and wire fraud. And so that's the legal authority that the FBI was willing to investigate. The federal prosecutor had better things to do. They would rather chase Russians, or I don't know what the federal prosecutor was thinking, but they weren't interested in what the FBI was selling when they brought it up. And so we just got fucked. So, and there's nothing I can do about it. And and the statute of limitations is pretty much, run its course on it.
I'll be more blunt. Okay, the Bill Cosby thing. These women come out against him 30 years after the fact. Now, I think what Bill Cosby did was awful. And I think that, Mr. He was like, Cliff Huxtable. He was like supposed to be the perfect dad and this outgoing funny guy and this good guy and whatever. And behind the scenes is a dirt bag. And that goes to show you, just no matter who you put up on a pedestal, you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. But do I think he should be allowed to be prosecuted for something he did 30 years ago? Nope, sorry. Why didn't you say something 30 years ago? Because you were worried about your career in Hollywood? Because you were scared? Not good enough. If anything, there should be a crime, about reporting a crime too late, beyond the statute of limitations, or just too late, and go, okay, we'll charge him for something 30 years ago, but we're also going to charge you with a sort of like perjury or something like that. We're also going to charge you with a crime. So if you really want to go through with this, okay, just understand that you're going to be faced with.
If you do that, nobody will report crimes.
Well, this is my thing. If you have something happen to you, and you wait 5 years, 10 years, 30 years to report it, it should be like, it ain't our problem. I can understand if you got attacked and you're in the hospital and you got your jaw wired shut, right, and you can't speak or your hands are broken, you can't write, whatever it is, you can't communicate. When you become able to communicate again, because there's more than one form of communication, then you need to make a police report. If you have to get a lawyer, whatever it is you got to do, you got to do. But to say, well, at the time I was young and up and coming in Hollywood and I knew if I reported him I'd lose my job, that comes with it.
Well, what's really funny is the whole thing about power in Hollywood and like the directors and how I was watching a William Dafoe movie. They had because it's getting near Halloween. They had and they were doing a William Dafoe retrospective. They had a Shadow of a Vampire, where which is about William Dafoe plays a vampire. And the lead character is a director that hires the vampire to shoot the famous the original vampire film, first one ever, called Nosferatu. It's a German film in German cinema that it's in the public domain. You can see that one on YouTube probably, Nosferatu. But so this is a film about the director, Murnau, who is famous German director Murnau, makes a deal with a vampire to play a vampire on his film. And there's this one scene where the vampire, William Dafoe's character, wants this or that, and and the guy who's playing the director says, I am the director and I'm telling you what to do. And so he's literally, and I've been in a situation, I've worked with directors and they're like that. They're like the Fuhrer. They order you what to do. And it was fun. Ironic about it intentionally is that the director is like, I am the director and you will do what I tell you to do. And he's telling this to a vampire. And it was just, very ironic, which was their intention. But Shadow of Vampire, I think William Dafoe was nominated for an Oscar on that one. It's one of the later films and very towards the end of his career. And it's a good one. And so if you're not doing anything for Halloween, you can get it on Netflix or whatever, however you get your movies. The Shadow of a Vampire is a really good film. And you can see the original Nosferatu. Trying to remember, I think it was that the vampire didn't want to go on a ship. He wanted to fly to where the shoot was because he didn't like ships for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. In Nosferatu, the original, there was a scene on a ship, the plague ship, where the plague ship pulls into London and everybody on the ship is dead. and they're trying to read the logs. The local council trying to figure out why is everybody dead on this ship, and it's because this ship, just like a ghost ship, pulls into the port in London, and there's just some rats on it, and a coffin, and they can't figure out why where the crew went. So obviously the vampire killed everybody, but anyway, I got into films. We can't do a chat with me getting into films, right? That's a problem I have. Whereas you're cinematographically challenged. Cinematographically challenged.
I saw Star Wars.
Which one?
The real one?
A New Hope, Episode 4. It's on cable. They were playing Star Wars on TNT, I think. Oh. That's the one you mean, right? Episode 4, A New Hope, the original.
Yeah. When I say Star Wars, yeah, I mean Star Wars, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That one.
Well, that was the one where, getting into the trivia, that's where the lawyer who made the deal with George Lucas for 20th Century Fox, he forgot to put a clause giving the film company, because Fox paid for that film to have it produced. So generally when a film company does that, they're supposed to have a clause giving them the rights to the sequel. But that this lawyer forgot to put that clause in the contract. So that's how Lucasfilm was born, because after Star Wars blew up to be such a big hit, which almost nobody foresaw, then they looked at the contract, and then all they could do is just fire the lawyer who wrote it. And because George Lucas was in charge from that point, because he had the rights to all the sequels, because a lawyer forgot to put a standard clause in a standard contract. And I think that's part of why some of the other ones didn't hold up to, weren't as good. They seem to get progressively not as good, worse over time. What
are you talking about? Empire Strikes Back was the best one, and ironically, that was the one that George Lucas had the least amount of influence over.
Well, that was the second one. The closer you get to the beginning, the more control the studio had, and the control in the second one was because he didn't have his post-production operation up and running. By the time Industrial Light and Magic got up and running,
no,
like
it's
when I saw Phantom Menace in the movie theater, everything looked all the animation looked blurred in the movie theater. I think they eventually fixed it, but when it was first released, when all the animation stuff moved, it was like blurry as shit. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, the Emperor has no clues. Nobody could actually tell George. They were all afraid to tell George Lucas, that his animation was blurry or something. It's like, because he had the rights. He had the rights to everything, because the lawyers screw up. But the closer the the more control the post-production director at Fox had over it. I mean, the second one was still the post-production people at Fox still had a lot of control over everything. But after that, it got zipped off to Sonoma or wherever the hell Industrial Light and Magic was based, because Fox was just turned out being they just got a percentage for doing the distribution of it, and he was just being nice to Fox. He didn't have to do that. He liked the COO at the time, but he didn't like what's his name, the guy, Uncle Rupert Murdoch. They had their conflicts, but Rupert Murdoch was a print publisher, really, who had bought News Corp. He really wasn't the. Anyway, we're really off into the weeds now of what this chat was supposed to be about. I'll check the externals really quick, see if anybody's out there making any comments since the paracord one. Let's see, any other Second Amendment stuff going on that we missed out on talking about? No, not too much happening in the external, so. Oh, I wanted to say I saw besides Judgment at Nuremberg, which got me talking, I think, onto last week's show about ethics in wartime and Grid Down and stuff like that. I saw a Deep Space Nine episode in Pale Moonlight, in the Pale Moonlight, and that was like the episode where Cisco goads Romulus into war, declaring war onto the against the Dominion, and he breaks like every code of ethics. And basically the show is he makes a log entry explaining what he did, and then he deletes the log entry at the end of the show because there's just so much shit that he did wrong to get the Romulans into the war with the Dominion that it was excuse me. It was a great little show on ethics during wartime. I mean, but of course, Judgment at Nuremberg was, I mean, the classic with Richard Widmark. I think William Shatner had a bit role, but Burt Lancaster, sorry, and a couple other big names. And that's a black and white one. So if you refuse to watch a black and white film, then I can't help you.
Not that I refuse to watch a black and white film. It's just I just didn't find very many older films even slightly interesting. Not that new films are. Most new films suck. I will tell you this, though. So the new films don't like
You're roboting a little bit there, friend. I don't know if it's me, but
how about now?
Better.
Better. Okay. So with the new Star Wars films, I really don't like them, and you know, I think the characters are part of the reason I don't like the stories. Who kind of sucks. The characters are awful, and one of the characters is Kylo Ren, Darth Vader's grandson, right? And he's like the Darth Vader wannabe. Now, I was going through some YouTube videos, and I came across a Saturday Night Live skit where the actor who plays Kylo Ren is on Saturday Night Live, and they do like an undercover boss. So he's playing Kylo Ren on the Death Star or whatever it is, right? And he's we're on Starkiller Planet Base, whatever the hell they called that thing. And he's gonna dress up like Matt, the radar technician. So he's in an orange jumpsuit with blonde hair and glasses. None of the mask and the dark, cloak, none of that stuff. And he's gonna be the undercover boss. And it's a funny comedy skit. I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, this short comedy skit with this actor trying to make fun of the character he plays in a movie is better than the damn movie. So,
well, it's easy to be incredibly brilliant for a 5-minute skit than it is to be for a 2-hour film. It just is.
all I'm saying is I have a different opinion of the actor because I was thinking, this guy is not a very good actor. Well, it's not that he's not a very good actor. It's that he was given a shitty character to play in a movie with a shitty plot. So,
well, it's Lucas sold all the rights to Disney, to Star Wars, so Disney now has control. And Disney's buying out 20th Century Fox to boot, which is like has William Fox spinning and Daryl Zanuck probably spinning in their graves. But I could care less. I did some dubbing for him into foreign languages, and it's none of my affair who sold 20th Century Fox out. But I think their stock is even to where it's barely to where it was like 15, 20 years ago. So News Corp stock hasn't been doing all that great. Well, it's like that's one thing I got to do when I was running my studios. I got to work on some shorts, and when you watch Saturday Night Live skit, yeah, it's easy to be brilliant for 5 minutes or 4 minutes, however long. How long was the skit? 3 minutes? I mean, you could be brilliant for 3 minutes, but being brilliant for two hours, a 10-reel film.
Okay. You were in Hollywood, you shoot all this footage and you chop through it, right? And you edit out a whole bunch of scenes. You do multiple takes. Even if it's a 5-minute scene, you might have to do it on 6 different sets because you're doing scenes at different places or whatever it is. What I'm saying is, maybe it took them 18 hours to film 5 minutes, whereas, filming a movie took them 6 months. I understand that. But it's just the whole fact that it just proved that there was nothing wrong with the actor at all. Sometimes when I see these films, I go, this guy can't act, this gal can't act. When you see him in something else, like, okay, they can act. They just got handed a shit script before.
Yeah, it's amazing what a good script can do. I mean, the script is everything. Nothing else. It doesn't matter how much special effects it. And the thing about Hollywood is like because people rely on all the gimmicks and all the technology, is that it's basically just about some guy typing on a typewriter or when they used to have them. Or now it's on Final Draft on a laptop, but it's about character interactions driving the plot, the basics. So that's why it's like when you look at some of the old black and whites, they didn't have all these gizmos. They didn't have all the 3D industrial light and magic tricks that are neat and gee whiz tricks. They had to rely on character interactions driving the plot. They had to rely on good cinematography. They had to rely on all kinds of things. But that people don't rely on anymore because they don't have to.
I like that stuff more than I like the CGI and the stupid-ass Michael Bay explosions, okay? But just like Casablanca, George Lucas could have wrote that. That's how bad it sucked. So
George Lucas could not have written Casablanca, and he's more importantly, he could not have directed it.
Dude, they could have got a monkey to direct that. The movie sucked.
I don't know what to do with you. Have you did you watch that one that I've been trying to get you to watch? The what's that other bogey movie I wanted you to watch? The Maltese Falcon.
No. I was even going to try to watch a John Wayne movie over the weekend, but didn't have time.
Well, life is what it is. You should watch the Maltese Falcon.
Steel coated,
Yeah, they're actually slurry coating the condo next week, or I think actually October 1st. They're starting. I don't know if it'll affect the show.
You don't have to go out there with a squeegee and a bucket. I did my own.
Well, that's why we pay our condo fees, to be ripped off, and so somebody else can slurry coat the damn driveway. But the joys of living in a condo, right?
Yeah, I told my wife, I said, do you think there's going to be a point in our life that we decide we want to move to a condo and just, have somebody else do everything? And she's like, if we work all our lives to get a house and, out in the country like we want and all of that, why would we leave it? Like, I don't know, because by then I'm so old and beat up, I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, well, it happens. It's like my dad can't. I mean, when he tries to walk the dog every day, so he goes out for his walk. It's good for his heart, and he's doing great. But his back, he has sciatica. When just bending down to pick up the dog poop, it hurts. And there's a time in your life when you get old. I mean, that's what retirement centers are for, where people can't, going out getting the groceries, cleaning up your house. I mean, it's just more than. I mean, the Father Time is undefeated. He grinds everything into the dirt. There isn't anybody that's ever beaten Father Time. Okay, so personally, I don't like the whole concept of. I mean, I understand it's benevolent as far as old folks' homes, but it's in. What's the word I'm looking for? It begins with an I. It's like a prison. It's kind of like a prison. It's institutional living is what it is. But hey, I would say when I was there recovering from heart surgery, it wasn't good, but it was good for me, but it wasn't good to be there. I mean, but it's institutional living. I mean, I think I've talked about my nurse ratchet experience once or twice, either on or off air. So I'm not going to pull out the nurse ratchet scene, but from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But institutional living is what it is, and condo is an institutional living. But the worst part about it is that the goddamn board of directors basically has control over everything. And they tend to be little Nazi fascists. Give somebody a little bit of power, and they're basically in control of your money. So anyway, I won't go off on the deep end on that one. But
well, you know what got me thinking that though about the whole maybe one day somewhere where somebody's taking care of all this stuff is that so I'm seal coating the driveway. Sunday morning we go to Lowe's and go get some seal coat. And I start seal coating the driveway and got it all done. And I was hunched over the whole time, squeegeeing this thing, right? And I'm like, my back is hurting me from being hunched over. Let's take the dog for a walk. Maybe I'll straighten out my back. So I decided this time I'm going to open carry my high power. So I get the high power out of the safe and I take out the mag and I go to pull back the slide to make sure that the chamber's empty. And I can barely do it. The arthritis in my left hand had it seized up so bad I couldn't pull the slide back.
Trigger finger? Yeah, I have that too. I mean, your hand closes and you can't open it up, and sometimes you have to use your other hand to open it up.
Like my thumb locks, or it's just the pain just to grip, right? Is that and this my dad? He's about 70 and he's got this. I mean, to the point where it hurts him to squeeze a trigger. So I know it's probably coming, right? So anyhow, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. So I just fought through the pain and racked the slide, and I dropped one down in there and hit the release, and then dropped the hammer. I had to be real careful with that, and then put the mag in, and put it in a holster, and off we went for a walk. And we walked 3.3 miles, and that helped straighten out my back some. But the whole time my hand was hurting, and I'm going, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen when I've got a place where I've got to do more work around the house other than what I do here, or I've got more land to tend with, or maybe we do have, because we'd like to have some critters and stuff, chickens and things like that. And I'd like to have a much bigger garden, and if I have solar panels or a wind turbine or rain catchment or anything, that all takes maintenance. That takes work. What am I going to do if if my arthritis gets worse or something like that? It's like, it really just got me thinking.
You hire some help.
See, I'm just not into that. I'm used to doing everything myself.
Well, things change when you get older. I mean, I told my folks, like, look, if you need me, I'm not 5 minutes away, but I'm one phone call away. If they really need me, all they have to do is call, and I'll drop everything. And I mean, if I have to help him get out of bed every day, I love him that much to do it. If I have to make his breakfast, I have to go shopping for him, I'll do it. Because I know what it's like to be in a retirement center. And having the worst thing is to have some kid telling you what table you can or can't sit at, or what hallway you can or can't walk down. It's like you pay somebody $3,500 a month and then they tell you what hallway you can't walk down. It's like, fuck you. But I think they passed some new laws in Hawaii where if you like threaten somebody who works in a retirement center, that's like triple the penalties or something, So that's like a special new crime. So it's like it's really institutional living. So, but when you get older, you need help. It just Father Time's undefeated, and yeah, you can't. That's why my dad sold his M1 Garand, and I was like, why did you sell your M1 Garand? And he's like,
dude, that should be a crime.
He says, I'm 83. I can't. The recoil. I'd have to drive like 5 hours to find some place where I could go shoot it. There's no place anywhere near where I live to go shoot it, and I can't handle the recoil. I like shooting 22. He likes his 22 Henry rifle, and I mean, yeah, he's got a John Wayne Winchester, but he traded his M1 Garand for something else, and I think he got a bad deal, and I think so does he. But
that's depressing, man. That's depressing.
I know, but look, it's his gun. And obviously he couldn't use it. He couldn't use it anymore. It was for a lot of reasons, and part of it was age. He sold his Corvette. He sold his Corvette because it hurt too much getting in and out of the car. I mean, he has sciatica in his back. And it's like when he walks his dog every day, bending down to pick up the dog poop in the little dog poop bag, that really hurts him. It really hurts. I mean, he just had a subdermal or whatever injection like last week. And that only lasts for a little while. And so when you hit 83, it hurts. Life hurts. Okay. And just the simple things. So that's why I told him, look, I know what it's like in a retirement center. You're going to hate it if you move there. So if you really need me to do stuff for you, I'll just drop everything, because I know how much he would hate some kid telling him what hallway he can't walk down, or what chair to sit in, or just all the little shit that happens when you put 20-year-olds in charge of 83-year-olds, or 90-year-olds. I mean, they don't necessarily. I mean, it's benevolent, but they don't have the respect and love necessarily that should go. I mean, you're supposed to respect and love your elders, and even if sometimes they're wrong, but you still. And it's like I do whatever they needed me to do, and I drop everything. I'd even live in fucking California if they don't fucking move to Arizona. But it's like it would be something. I was hoping that they would move to Arizona, but they were like, well, we don't know anybody in Arizona, but they like, why did you drag me all the way to Arizona? I was like, well, they didn't realize it until they were there, but they liked it. I liked open carrying. I mean, it'd be if they moved to Arizona and needed me to help them, that would be even better than having to move to California. I mean, they have a nice place in California, but it's California, so there's like no way you can win in California. That's the way things are. Uh,
It is interesting though how old age can dictate your firearms choices. So I mean, I got to tell you,
Definitely.
I'm thinking about looking at one of those Smith and Wesson 380 EZ handguns now because one day that may be the only thing I can rack. uh,
Well, I guess it gives. What about we could just go to wheel guns? I mean, right? You need to rack a wheel gun.
yeah, okay, so they had a real interesting talk about this Midnight Ranges show a couple weeks ago. Somebody broke their collarbone and they got 12 to 16 months time to heal. So racking a slide and heavy recoil and stuff like that all transmits through their body and it hurts. So they went around and everybody was talking, and the consensus was to get a steel framed 357 with a 3-inch barrel and shoot 38 light loads through it. Hornady makes I know they make a 38 special in a light load. I'm sure other companies probably do, but something that's heavy enough to mitigate the recoil, and something that the frame of the gun is heavy enough to mitigate the recoil, but a load that's light enough that in a self-defense situation you can use it. And he's kind of like, if I had to use this thing, it doesn't really matter what it is, because at that point, to hell with the pain, I got to defend myself. But to go to the range and practice, or to try to keep your skills sharp, or whatever, you got to kind of consider that for an injury or something like that. I've gone to 2 gun stores looking for this 380 Easy Shield, and both of them were out of stock. So,
What about 9mm? What about 9mm?
Smith & Wesson doesn't have an Easy in the 9mm yet. I think they're trying it out with the 380. I bet you they're going to come out with a Shield EZ with this easy to rack slide in other calibers down the road. But I mean, I'm okay with the 380. So.
Right. Well, my experience with the 380 was the LC 380, and I like the LC 9S Pro so much more. With the 380, I've had failure to feeds just because it's a low-powered round and it doesn't always have enough to, and so I'll just have to rack it sometimes and blow out a round if it doesn't feed. But I never had that problem with the LC9S Pro, and that's got a really nice trigger on it, and you might check out that one, see if you like it. But I know how it is when you get older. I mean, believe me, when I was sitting there in recovery, I just was dreaming about getting out in the sunshine instead of being in the freezing hospital, and getting out there with my AK and going shooting again. And I knew it would be a long time and a long road before I could, but eventually I made it. For a while, like, it was just a dream, being able to go shooting again. It's like, first, like, you have to be able to get out of the bed, and then walk for a ways before you can, like, run uphill and run and gun. And you have to be able to, I had to wait for my sternum to heal, because I just had a little wire holding it together, and I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds without, like, risking breaking my sternum in half. So now that that's all fixed, I can go out and run and gun all I want. But there was a while where I couldn't do any of that stuff. So it's just Father Time's undefeated. When your folks need help, it's great if you can do it for them, help them, as opposed to having some low-paid worker in a retirement center help who doesn't really love them. I mean, because for me, it would be, my payment would be just, talking to my dad, because it's one of the funnest, the most fun things that I ever do nowadays, just when I talk to my dad. Considering how many arguments we used to have, how we used to argue about everything, and how we, like, wouldn't talk to each other, it's just, yeah, I'd do all that stuff for him if he needed it. But so far, he's getting along. He's 83 and he's still kicking. They're going to take a cruise to visit me in Hawaii. I look forward to seeing him. But yeah, he was worried about it's like it's the pain, the sciatica. My mom has arthritis too, and so I asked what was that, and she knew because she has it. When you can't like you make a fist and then you try and open your hand and like your finger, some of your fingers won't open. That's called trigger finger, and it's arthritis basically. My mom had it, my dad had it, my grandparents had it, so I guess eventually I'm going to have it. And eventually is now. I mean, it's not as bad as hers is. She had to have some operations for like on her wrist or something, carpal tunnel. But I haven't had anything that severe. It's just like sometimes I can't open my hand, but my trigger finger works. My problems were with my left hand, so. I can always get my Tavor to work. So bad guys, keep a note. That trip, the good trigger finger still works. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap this show up and maybe do a little after chat, if depending. I don't know if Squib wants to stay awake late or he's got to be at work in the morning or something. But thanks everybody for tuning in to the Lock and Load show. We try to do the show every Monday around 5 p.m. Hawaii time. So whatever that translates to on the mainland or back in Europe or the East Coast, I don't know. But thanks, everybody. God bless America. God bless Donald Trump. And we'll see you next week.